The Crusades and the formation of the Latin Kingdom of Jerusalem. Introduction. A kingdom forged by faith and steel. The First Crusade, 1096 to 1099, marked a transformative moment in medieval Christendom, culminating in the capture of Jerusalem and the establishment of the Latin Kingdom of Jerusalem. This kingdom, carved out of a hostile and multicultural environment, represented the Crusaders' ambition to create a Christian stronghold in the heart of the Holy Land. The formation of the Latin Kingdom of Jerusalem was not only a military triumph, but also a political and cultural experiment. It required the Crusaders to adapt European feudal models to the realities of the Levant, manage relations with diverse local populations, and defend their fragile realm against relentless external threats. Chapter 1. The First Crusade and the Capture of Jerusalem. The Road to Jerusalem. The First Crusade began as a response to Pope Urban II's call at Clermont in 1095. He urged Christians to liberate Jerusalem from Muslim control, promising spiritual rewards for those who took up the cross. The Crusaders, a motley mix of knights, peasants, and clergy, endured immense hardships as they marched across Europe and Asia Minor, defeating Muslim forces at Nicaea, 1097, and Antioch, 1098. By the summer of 1099, the Crusaders reached the gates of Jerusalem. Exhausted and outnumbered, they faced the formidable task of breaching the city's defenses. The Siege of Jerusalem. The Crusaders constructed siege towers and ladders, launching a relentless assault on the city. On July 15, 1099, they breached Jerusalem's walls, overwhelming its defenders. The victory was marked by a brutal massacre of the city's Muslim and Jewish inhabitants, an act the Crusaders justified as divine retribution. A fictional perspective. Sir Geoffrey's revelation. Sir Geoffrey of Anjou, a fictional knight, was among those who stormed Jerusalem's walls. As he stood in the Holy Sepulchre, overcome with awe and exhaustion, he reflected on the journey that had brought him there. "We have suffered much and shed blood beyond measure," Geoffrey wrote in his journal. "Yet, standing here, I feel the presence of God. This city is not just a prize, it is a promise fulfilled." Geoffrey's experience captured the spiritual fervor that drove the Crusaders and the profound sense of accomplishment they felt in reclaiming the Holy City. Chapter 2. Establishing the Latin Kingdom. Godfrey of Bouillon, the first ruler. Following the conquest of Jerusalem, the Crusaders established the Latin Kingdom of Jerusalem. Godfrey of Bouillon, one of the Crusades' leaders, was chosen as its first ruler. Refusing the title of king, he adopted the title Defender of the Holy Sepulchre, emphasizing his role as a servant of God rather than a secular monarch. Godfrey's leadership set the tone for the kingdom's governance, blending feudal principles with a focus on defending Christianity's holiest sites. Feudal foundations. The kingdom adopted a feudal system, dividing its territory into lordships such as the County of Jaffa, the Principality of Galilee, and the Lordship of Ultra-Jordan. These lordships were governed by Crusader nobles who swore fealty to the king and were responsible for defending their lands. This structure, while effective in theory, faced challenges due to the kingdom's limited manpower and resources. The reliance on a small, transient population of European settlers made the kingdom vulnerable to external attacks and internal dissent. A fictional perspective. Geoffrey's new life. Geoffrey of Anjou was granted a fief near Bethlehem for his service during the Crusade. Tasked with building a castle to protect the surrounding villages, he quickly realized the difficulties of governing in a foreign land. "This is not Anjou," Geoffrey wrote in a letter to his brother. "The people here are not our own, and the land itself seems hostile. Yet we must endure, for we hold this land not for ourselves but for Christ." Chapter 3. Governance and multiculturalism. Managing a diverse population. The Latin Kingdom of Jerusalem was home to a diverse population, including Muslims, Jews, and Eastern Christians such as Armenians, Syriacs, and Greeks. The Crusaders, though initially brutal in their conquests, recognized the need to cooperate with these communities to maintain stability. The kingdom's rulers often allowed local populations to practice their religions and retain their customs, provided they paid taxes and recognized Crusader authority. This pragmatic approach, while imperfect, helped prevent widespread rebellion. A fictional perspective, Geoffrey's stewardship. As a lord, Geoffrey employed local Muslim and Christian farmers to work his lands. Initially distrustful of them, he gradually came to appreciate their knowledge of the region. "These people are not so different from us," Geoffrey observed. "They love their families and their homes as we do. If we are to hold this kingdom, it will not be through the sword alone." Geoffrey's experiences reflected the complexities of Crusader rule, as the Latin kingdom sought to balance conquest with coexistence. Chapter 4. Defense and External Threats. Fortifications and Military Orders. The kingdom's survival depended on its ability to defend against Muslim counterattacks. To this end, the Crusaders constructed a network of fortifications, including castles such as Croix de Chevaliers and Montfort Castle. These strongholds served as both military bases and symbols of Crusader dominance. The establishment of military orders, such as the Knights Templar and Knights Hospitaller, further strengthened the kingdom's defenses. These orders combined monastic discipline with martial prowess, providing a dedicated force to protect pilgrims and defend the Holy Land. A fictional perspective, Geoffrey's siege. Geoffrey's castle came under attack by a Muslim army led by a local emir. Despite being outnumbered, Geoffrey and his men held out for weeks, relying on the castle's defenses and their determination. "We fight not for ourselves but for the cross," Geoffrey declared to his soldiers. "If we fall, let it be as martyrs." The successful defense of the castle reinforced Geoffrey's faith and commitment to the Crusader cause. Chapter 5. The Fall of Jerusalem. The Rise of Saladin. The kingdom's fortunes began to decline in the late 12th century as Muslim forces, led by Saladin, unified against the Crusaders. Saladin's victory at the Battle of Hattin in 1187 marked a turning point, leading to the fall of Jerusalem later that year. Unlike the Crusaders in 1099, Saladin allowed Christian inhabitants to leave the city peacefully, demonstrating a contrasting approach to conquest. The loss of Jerusalem shocked Christendom and prompted the Third Crusade, though the city was never fully reclaimed by the Crusaders. A fictional perspective, Geoffrey's legacy. By the time of Jerusalem's fall, Geoffrey had died, but his son, William, fought at Hattin. Captured by Saladin's forces, William was later ransomed and returned to Acre. "My father believed this kingdom would endure," William wrote. "I see now that it was built on shifting sands. Yet, his faith was true, and that faith will guide me still." Chapter 6. The Kingdom's Legacy. Cultural and Religious Impact. The Latin Kingdom of Jerusalem left a lasting legacy, inspiring generations of Crusaders and shaping European perceptions of the Holy Land. Its governance and fortifications influenced medieval politics and architecture, while its multicultural society. Chapter 7. Cultural Exchange in the Kingdom of Jerusalem. Blending cultures. The Latin Kingdom of Jerusalem became a crossroads of cultures, where European Crusaders interacted with the diverse peoples of the Levant, including Muslims, Jews, and Eastern Christians. Despite the initial violence of conquest, the daily realities of governance and survival required cooperation and exchange. Over time, Crusaders adopted local customs, architectural styles, and agricultural practices, creating a hybrid culture that was neither wholly European nor Middle Eastern. For instance, architecture. Crusader castles like Croix de Chevaliers incorporated elements of Byzantine and Islamic design, such as rounded towers and water cisterns. Cuisine. Crusaders introduced Levantine foods, such as dates and spices, to Europe, while adopting Mediterranean ingredients like olives and citrus fruits. Language. Many Crusaders learned Arabic, Greek, or Syriac to communicate with local populations and allies. A fictional perspective. Geoffrey's transformation. As the years passed, Geoffrey of Anjou became fluent in Arabic and employed local advisors to manage his estate. His willingness to embrace aspects of Levantine culture earned him the loyalty of his subjects but the suspicion of some fellow Crusaders. "They call me a Frank," Geoffrey wrote in his journal, "but I am more than that now. This land has shaped me, just as I have sought to shape it. Perhaps that is how God intended it to be." Geoffrey's adaptation highlighted the complexities of Crusader identity and the inevitability of cultural blending in the Latin Kingdom. Chapter 8. administrative challenges, and innovations. The High Court of Jerusalem. The Latin Kingdom of Jerusalem developed a unique system of governance that adapted European feudalism to the realities of the Levant. The High Court of Jerusalem, composed of the kingdom's barons and clergy, served as both a legislative body and a judicial authority. It was responsible for resolving disputes, granting fiefs, and advising the king. However, the kingdom's reliance on a small and transient European population posed significant challenges. The constant need for